Hi, gang. Hello, everybody. TGIF on this 25th of July. Summer flying by, isn't it? Serious subject matter as the Friday poll question. I wish it could be lighter, but we've got a lot of serious news unfolding around us. Should the United States, like France, recognize Palestine as a state? That's the Friday poll question. Should the United States, like France, recognize Palestine as a state? If you're in the northeastern part of the United States and you want to get out of the way from this heat wave that's just hit us, it was in the Midwest and now it's upon us. At the Parks Casino in Shippensburg this weekend, located in central Pennsylvania off exit 29 of Route 81, 45 minutes from the state capitol in Harrisburg. Parks Casino, always my casino of choice, and so close to Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia, the nearby Pennsylvania towns of Chambersburg, Carlisle, and Greencastle. Remember, every Monday they celebrate veterans with a free hot dog lunch. Every Tuesday, it's the Parks Casino 50% golden discount. Take my recommendation to check out all the action and entertainment and excitement. It's smoke-free. They've got 500 state-of-the-art slot machines, 48 live dealer electronic table games featuring blackjack and roulette, a great daily happy hour. Hey, as I like to say, it's always 5 o'clock at Parks Casino in Shippensburg. Get in on the action off Interstate 81, parkscasino.com. You've got to be 21. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. A lot of voting yesterday in the Thursday poll question at Smerconish.com, for which I thank you. 35,431. That's kind of our sweet spot, the 35,000 range, although we were a tick under 40 earlier in the week on an Epstein-related question, as was yesterday's. And then tomorrow, Saturday, when I'm on CNN, typically we're in the 40,000 plus range, which is kind of cool. Kind of cool because I remember when 400 votes would be exciting for me. Regarding President Trump's handling of the Epstein files, which is more of a political threat to him? Is it the way he's responded, or is it the contents of the documents themselves? 57.65% said it's the contents. The story keeps growing. There are new developments today, threefold, and they're covered in the newsletter, of course. One is that you've got Todd Blanche, who is the president's former private lawyer. He actually tried the criminal prosecution against President Trump in the Stormy Daniels case, left a white-shoed firm just to go and work for Trump, which many thought was a risky proposition when it looked like Trump was politically finished, but it's played out well for Blanche. He's the number 2 in the Justice Department. Today, he'll be back with Ghislaine Maxwell. Second day in a row in Tallahassee, meeting with her in a U.S. attorney's office. What could have transpired yesterday? Her attorney described it as a good day where she answered every single question. The second update comes from the New York Times that the president's name was on a contributor list for Epstein's 50th birthday book. So it's funny, when I saw the Times story, and they had a book jacket, which we have in the newsletter today, where President Trump has signed to Jeffrey Epstein, "To Jeff, you're the greatest." And when I saw the image, I thought, oh, wait, do they have the birthday book? Because if so, then my prediction that within a week of last Saturday, we'd all see it would have come true. No, but you could tell they're on the trail. I mean, they are on the trail. This is a 4-person byline story in the Times saying Trump is listed as a contributor to the book. Again, I come back and I'm going to amplify on this tomorrow when I'm on CNN. The book exists. And I'm sure there's a contribution in the birthday book from Donald Trump. Maybe the staff submitted it on his behalf, but the deny, and the calling it a fake news, I just think digs him in a hole, which is why I was in the category yesterday of saying that it's his response. Unless, as many of you point out to me, there's something in that book which is really hellacious. I mean, and not in the book, but the file, his conduct. If he really has something to hide, then okay, then I understand the way that he's approached it. But Lanny Davis was a great guest, and please listen to the podcast yesterday when Lanny was my guest talking about crisis management. The third story is a Wall Street Journal story. They're back on the case. They say that Bill Clinton was in that birthday book. Leon Black, the billionaire, fashion designer Vera Wang, Mort Zuckerman, the media owner, and Leslie Wexner, who was the benefactor of Jeffrey Epstein. So, president off to Scotland, but the Epstein story continues here at home. Today's Friday poll question at Smerconish.com. Should the United States, like France, recognize Palestine as a state? I need to show those who listen to me on YouTube an image that is page one today of the New York Times, front page, above the fold, and getting a lot of traction elsewhere. It's I'll describe it for the benefit of those who are not watching on YouTube. By the way, watch on YouTube if you enjoy the podcast. The depiction is of an 18-month-old boy. It's ghastly, and it's hard to look at. He's being held in the arms of his mother, and his spinal column is exposed because he's starving. When I saw that image, I thought it's hard for me to look at. I hope that young man survives. I worry that he's going to grow up and hate Israel and hate the United States by extension. The corresponding story says displaced Palestinians waited in front of a charity kitchen in Western Gaza City on Wednesday. These kitchens are funded by Arab and Western countries and aid groups. Gaza's hospitals have struggled since early in the war to cope with the influx of Palestinians injured and maimed by Israeli airstrikes, and more recently by shootings meant to disperse desperate crowds as they surge toward food convoys. The World Food Program, which is an arm of the United Nations, said that the hunger crisis in Gaza has reached an astonishing new level, with a third of the population not eating for multiple days in a row. So the UN, their agencies, they accuse Israel of allowing far too little food into Gaza. Israel's response is to blame Hamas and mismanagement by aid groups for the problems. Israel's response is to say, well, this is what Hamas wants. Israel's response is to say, this is what Hamas is bringing about, because Hamas they're willing to sacrifice their own people, says Israel, so as to sow discord against Israel and anti-Semitism against Israel, that it's all part of the Hamas plan. Meanwhile, the United States is cutting short Gaza ceasefire talks and bringing its negotiating team home from Qatar because they say, President Trump's team, that Hamas shows a lack of sincerity in these discussions. And it's against this backdrop, and obviously all the things that have transpired recently and not so recently in the Middle East, to get back to the poll question, that France is officially recognizing Palestine as a state. Emmanuel Macron said that he would do so in September. Why is this so significant? Because although many nations have said similar, I think the number is probably about 140, this is the first time a G7 nation has done so. And immediately, Israel and the United States both condemned the move, the United States saying through Marco Rubio that we strongly reject the announcement and called it reckless. The G7 nations, you've got France, the US, UK, Italy, Germany, Canada, and Japan. In a posting on X, Macron said, consistent with its historic commitment to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, I've decided that France will recognize the state of Palestine. I will make this solemn announcement before the United Nations General Assembly this coming September. The urgent priority today is to end the war in Gaza and to bring relief to the civilian population. Peace is possible. We need an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages, and massive humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza. We must also ensure the demilitarization of Hamas, secure and rebuild Gaza. And finally, we must build the state of Palestine, guarantee its viability, and ensure that by accepting its demilitarization and fully recognizing Israel, it contributes to the security of all of the region. Is there anything objectionable in what he just said, by the way, in terms of his rationale? I know that I read that quite quickly. The response from Prime Minister Netanyahu: we strongly condemn Macron's decision to recognize a Palestinian state next to Tel Aviv in the wake of the October 7 massacre. Such a move rewards terror and risks creating another Iranian proxy. Just as Gaza became a Palestinian state in these conditions, would be a launch pad to annihilate Israel, not to live in peace beside it. The Palestinians do not seek a state alongside Israel. They seek a state instead of Israel, said Netanyahu. I mean, gone, it seems to me, is any pretense any longer from Netanyahu and those around him, particularly the more conservative or extreme elements of his cabinet. Gone is any pretense of even talking about a Palestinian state or a two-state solution, which I think is sad. And then I reflect on the fact that Zohran Mamdani, won the primary in New York City being the largest concentration of Jews outside of Israel, I think even more than in Tel Aviv. I may be wrong about that, but not in saying that it's the largest concentration. And I see the two as related. I mean, Mamdani's success is tied to that image on the front page of the New York Times today. And I worry about a whole new generation that's being raised and is hearing what Mamdani says, including his talk of globalizing the Intifada, something for which both Rahm Emanuel and Josh Shapiro have condemned him. And I condemn that language as well. I need to say, because I believe it sincerely, and I want the record to be entirely clear, that I condemn Hamas for the events of 10/7. And I believe that Israel had every right post 10/7 to seek out and eliminate the perpetrators. And I'm not just saying that as lip service. I'm saying it because I believe it in the same way that I believe the United States had every right post September 11 to do likewise with Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, those who were responsible for the events. But we took things too far. We took things too far. We took things too far and it's easy to say in retrospect, and at the time I was completely on the same page with the administration, although saw things, heard things, read things that I changed my view. But never should it have been the shotgun blast that it became in Afghanistan. It should have been a sniper approach going after the perpetrators, and we never should have made the left turn that took us into Iraq. And in similar fashion, Israel has gone too far, a kill ratio that's now 50-1 in comparison to what Hamas did on 10/7. Again, Hamas lit the fuse, Hamas tipped the domino, Hamas is responsible for the origin of this chapter of a long-standing war. And I have no doubt that, as Israel says, Hamas is exploiting this. But it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Gaza is the size of the city of Philadelphia. You've got a population of 2 million being jammed into a small portion of that area. I'm sure that the starvation is real. I suspect that Hamas is trying to impede whatever efforts Israel might be making. But mostly, I'm worried about the global risk. I think that Mamdani's rise is really a canary in a coal mine, and ought to let people know that this is generational, and the stage is being set now for the perpetuation of all the hatred to go on. I mean, if this kid survives, and I hope that he does, when he sees this image as an older individual, what's he thinking and who's he blaming? Right or wrong? Right or wrong? So read the Macron statement. Read the Macron statement. I think that the situation necessitates a two-state solution. And I don't read anything in Netanyahu's response that speaks to that and says, well, this is not the time, but of course we agree. I mean, the settlement expansion that's taking place in the West Bank is going to preclude there being a two-state solution in that region. And if not there, then where? And always the Palestinians will regard this as their homeland. I know it's not easy, and I don't profess to have all the answers, but I've been there, and I'd like to go back. And it's sad. It's damn sad. Go vote on today's poll. I'm sorry it's a downer, but it's a big issue, and we got to talk about it. We've got to talk about it. Should the United States, like France, recognize Palestine as a state? Not going to happen on this president's watch. Probably wouldn't have happened on Kamala Harris's watch either, had there been a Kamala Harris watch. But something worthy of consideration. Should we be doing more, at least, to speak of that? I mean, there are no final thought. I know I'm getting long-winded. There are no guardrails right now on Netanyahu. And read the stories that we had in the newsletter earlier this week, where inside the Trump White House, they were speaking of Netanyahu being out of control and willing to bomb anybody. They can't control him, and they don't seek to control him. So Thank you. Go vote on the Friday poll question. Thank you for voting all week long to the extent that you've been doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, will you please like and subscribe? Like and subscribe and set yourself up for notifications. I hope I see you on YouTube tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 7:30. I'll be live in New York City before my CNN program. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe.